Hi, friends. Coach Lauren Lewis, certified personal trainer, health educator, and your online fitness coach. And one more thing to add to the list, potentially your yin yoga instructor. I've been teaching a little bit more yin yoga these days, practicing it myself, getting some continuing education in the practice of yin yoga so I can provide it for all of you here on YouTube. So that's exciting. I also want to convey to all of you that, yes, a lot of the stuff that you see me do is hard workouts, resistance training, weightlifting, strength. And that's all yang energy, right? If you think about yin and yang energy is that masculine, aggressive, going against the resistance and, being hardcore. And I love workouts like that. But I also realize I also should tap into my yin energy, which is the more feminine, the soft, the passive, the non-resistance, the just letting things be as is. And so that's why I really love yin yoga. It is a practice that has allowed me not only to release the muscles in my body and all tension throughout the physical body, but also the tension in the mind. It's a very meditative practice. So if you're new to yin yoga, just know it's not like vinyasa yoga. See, I'm still kind of new to teaching yoga, but vinyasa style yoga is more of that flow from one thing to the next. And it can be construed as a workout. You're sweating a little bit, your muscles are engaged and getting tense and worked throughout that style of yoga. Whereas in yin, we really don't want any muscle interaction, any muscle engagement at all. Yin yoga is known as yoga for the joints. It's also known to release the connective tissues throughout the body, the fascia, and just allow the body to melt away and release all tension. We don't want to resist any of it. So the poses that we do in yin yoga are much longer than the flow yoga that maybe you've seen or done yourself. We hold poses anywhere from 3 up to 10 minutes long in the pose, which can be a little tough for people because the body wants to resist holding that pose, but also the mind wants to resist sitting that long in that pose and holding still. So with all of that to say, I really want to introduce you to yin if you're new, because I'm still relatively new to the practice myself. And so when I do yin yoga, at most I'll hold a pose right now is 3 minutes. So today I'm going to take you through many of the poses for about 2 minutes. We we want to get settled in. We want to practice in holding longer poses, but if we're new, we can start small with that. So before I get into doing the yin yoga session, I also want to start introducing some spiritual concepts and even some insight into my own spiritual journey that I have been on and this path inward that I have been on. Again, you see me as a personal trainer, weightlifting coach, strength coach, that's all on about the external. And I just want you to know that I have come to a place more and more in my life that it's no longer about the external. This is temporary. I enjoy taking care of the temporary and the physical body, but I realize that I am not the body and there's more to us than just the physical. And so I've been really trying to tap into that more and understand that more for myself and who I truly am. And so I would really like to share that with you in a lot of these videos. Don't get me wrong, we're still going to work out. We're still going to have, sometimes we get a little bit too deep maybe, and sometimes you just want to turn on a video and work out with me, and that's cool. I totally get it. But I really want to share this with you and with this spiritual journey that I've been on, and hopefully maybe you've already been on your spiritual path too and you feel like, am I the only one feeling this way on this path? This is pretty tough or maybe even lonely at times or pretty isolating. I just want you to know that there's people like myself as well that are going through it and still trying to figure out what it all means and what my purpose is here. And really the journey inward has been eye-opening and scary at times. And so I just want to be able to articulate it on these videos, which I'm finding is really hard to do. So I thought, a lot of the times what I can do is lean on some of the readings that I've been doing. I've been reading a lot of books around this spiritual path, the journey inward, and what other spiritual teachers have said. And so I do want to start off our yin yoga session today with reading a little passage from a book called The Art of Meditation. It's by Joel S. Goldsmith. I highly recommend his books. I have read so many of his books. He's well known as a Christian mystic, and he taught what is known as the infinite way. And so he has a ton of books. I mean, I think he was around since the 50s and 60s. And so his books have been, I don't know, I feel like I'm being very cliche, but life altering. Just really opened my eyes to a lot of things. So I'm going to share a little passage with you, and then we'll get into our yin yoga session. In spiritual living, we do not depend upon our correct human evaluation of situations. Regardless of how good our judgment may seem to be, we turn from it to the Father. Father, show me when to move. Show me whether or not to take the next step and when to take it. With patience and with practice, we develop the consciousness of a beholder, of waiting on the Lord, which leads us to the miracle of life, in which we discover not only that there is a God, but that it has become the governing factor in our life. It has taken over our experience. We have prevented the activity and operation of God in our affairs by not waiting, by not being a beholder, by not sitting, as it were, a little to one side of ourselves until we feel that the Father is taking over. If only we could do that, we would find the miracle of a divine presence going before us to make all things new. When we make a decision, very often we find insurmountable obstacles in the way. But when God makes the decision, God goes before us and removes every obstacle. Everything necessary to facilitate the undertaking is provided. Let us make a daily practice of being a beholder. Father, this is your day, the day you have made. I will be glad and rejoice in it. Reveal to me the work of this day. Show me thy decisions, not mine, but thine. Let thy will alone be the motivating and activating principle of my life. I do want to mention that we have 3 principles to keep in mind for yin yoga. The first principle is finding your edge. And what that means is that we do not force ourselves into any of these positions. If we're super tight in the hamstrings, super tight in the hips, we're not going to try to yank ourselves into any position or try to touch the toes or fold the whole body in half if we just can't get there. So finding your edge means finding where your body feels the best. Yes, you get a little bit of a stretch and a sensation, but if it's too much, it's going to then start incorporating the muscle contraction, and that's not what we want. We want to melt into the pose and release. And you will find the more you do yin yoga, the body will start to release more and more. But to start, always think on a scale from 1 to 10, finding your edge would be where 1 is, I'm not stretching at all, I'm just sitting here. Where up to 10 is like, yikes, I'm going to be sore tomorrow because I really forced myself into a position that was way over my edge, and it took my body way past the point of where it should have gone. We're looking for maybe a 4 or a 5 today, or in any of our yin yoga practices, try to stay about a 5. It's kind of finding that sweet spot of like, I can feel that. That's a sensation. That's kind of a deep stretch, but I'm not going past that. I can stay here for a little bit longer. So that's principle number 1. The second principle is to then hold the pose. So we find our edge and then we hold the pose. And I mentioned earlier in yin yoga, holding a pose is usually 3 minutes all the way up into something like 10 minutes, which myself, I have not done a 10-minute long pose yet. I'm still a beginner in this practice. So I start, and today you're going to see 2 minutes, maybe 3. But today, as a beginner, kind of getting you into this practice, let's do about 2-minute poses. The problem is if you go any less than that, then we're not really getting into yin yoga. Then it's starting to turn into vinyasa, where you're flowing from one thing to the next. And the idea of yin is to be still and not going from thing to thing, pose to pose. Okay. And then the third one is find stillness. So I just mentioned that with holding the pose. We have to hold it for about 3 minutes, all the way up to 10 to really find stillness. And not only in the body, but in the mind. And so you're going to find yourself getting a little wobbly, a little wanting to fidget, wanting to kind of I'm not comfortable with this. My body isn't comfortable with being this still, and neither is my mind. And so that's the practice. And that's what's so intriguing to me about yin yoga, because I was explaining to you earlier, I'm such a go getter, right? I love to lift the weights. I love to play hard, move hard, and do all this stuff. And it's like, where is the stillness in my life? And so yin yoga has really introduced stillness into my life. And I hope it introduces it to you as well. Oh, and I forgot to mention, props are helpful. So I have a blanket and a yoga block. So if you do have props or pillows, or definitely a blanket, I like to put the blanket under my knees when we do more on all fours type of poses, because if you're on a hard surface, the yoga mat may not be thick enough. And if you have tender knees, then I would put a blanket under your knees. Also, the block you'll see a little bit later, I use for a deep hip opener, and maybe I want to use the block for assistance. And so a block would be nice, but you also could use like a stack of books, anything to help you out in your poses. We do use a lot of props in yin yoga, so just be aware that these are things that you could be using throughout these sessions to help you get into your poses a little more comfortably. So with this yin yoga practice, we do want to let go of all thoughts. Find a space where we can just be present, connect with the divinity within, also known as the presence of God, just being in the presence of God in this moment. Go ahead and find a comfortable space on your mat, on the floor, legs crossed, whatever is feeling best for your body. With yin, I love that you don't have to be perfect looking. You don't have to have this perfect posture. A lot of the times we're going to look kind of slumped over as though we could fall asleep in these poses. So go ahead and relax here, close the eyes, soften the face, soften the jaw. Turn inward and focus on your breathing. We're just inhaling and exhaling in and out through the nose. Release all tension in the neck, shoulders. Relax the face. Relax the arms, the wrists, the hands. If thoughts come in, that's okay. There's no need to judge them, beat up on ourselves for them. They will come and go, just like clouds across the sky, and you are the sky. We're going to go into a couple of neck stretches before we start the actual yin poses. And so if you want to keep your eyes closed during this, that's fine. Just listen to my words to guide you through our neck stretches. The first thing we're going to do is release our right ear toward our right shoulder. And you can play around with this, kind of rock the head a little bit to find any tension through the side of the neck. What I do like to do is bring the left arm out and touch the mat. Bring it out nice and straight, and then see if that gives you a deeper sensation, deeper stretch. And now let's go ahead and release and bring the head back up to center. And I'm going to have you do the same thing on the other side. Left ear toward the left shoulder. Bring that right arm out straight, touching the mat, finding a deeper stretch there. I'm keeping my eyes closed throughout this. It just helps me stay centered and connected with all of you in this practice. And continue focusing on the breath. Good. Come back up to center. I'm going to release chin to chest now, finding a stretch to the back of the neck. Release all tension there. Let the head just hang. If you want, you could bring the hands behind the head and draw the chin a little bit closer toward the chest, but we don't yank ourselves into any position. Go ahead and release the hands and bring the head back up to center. And let's go ahead and look up toward the sky and then look down. One more time, look up. And last time, come down. And let's come back to center. And now look over your shoulder. Look over your other shoulder. And come back to center. Go ahead and clasp the hands right in front of you. And we're going to just roll it forward, releasing chin to chest again. Opening up the shoulder blades, getting a nice little rounding in the upper back to really open up the shoulder blades in the upper back. And then go ahead and release and bring the arms out, opening up the chest and shoulders, opening up the chest toward the ceiling even, and pinching those shoulder blades together with those arms coming back. And let's roll it forward again, clasping the hands, releasing chin to chest, opening it up. And then opening it up on the front side. And release. Good. Now we're just going to go into a little side bend reach, swaying side to side. I always think of the trees on a willow, or the branches on the willow tree, going side to side in the wind, just sweeping through. You can close your eyes here and just feel that nice stretch to the side of the body and flow with it. We'll do a few more. Good. And now come back to center. Keep the hands on the mat, and we'll just roll shoulders, starting with a little reverse shoulder roll. Focus on your breath again. We use the breath a lot in yin yoga, and so I will cue you from time to time to get back to the breath and inhaling and exhaling. But the first pose we're going to do is called caterpillar, and that's just going to be our legs out straight. And we're going to go into a forward fold. So this is caterpillar. You're going to feel a deep stretch through the hamstrings, but again, we're not going to try to force ourselves to touch the toes. If we're not there, we're not there. So I want you to find a forward fold that works for you, and we're going to be here for 2 minutes. And this is where we're going to introduce you to being still, finding your edge, being still, and holding the pose for 2 minutes. Here we go. Pose number 1, the caterpillar. You can close the eyes throughout all of these poses. Focus on the inhales and the exhales. Let the head hang as though you could fall asleep here in this forward fold. With every exhale, you may find that you're sinking deeper into this pose. Your body is releasing all tension. Just a few more breaths here. Release the hamstrings, the back of the legs, the low back. Release chin toward the chest. Release the neck. Release the top of the thighs if they're wanting to hold on. Go ahead and start slowly walking your back up to seated, all the way up. And now we're going to go into butterfly. Yin yoga has different names for their poses compared to like the flow yoga. I keep saying vinyasa. I hope that's vinyasa. I'm pretty sure that's right. So we are going to do butterfly. This is where maybe a blanket would be nice for some of you if you want to sit up on a blanket to prop yourself up a little bit more. But butterfly is pretty much bound angle if you're used to other yoga classes calling it bound angle, where we bring the soles of the feet together. And we're really getting into the hips and the adductors here. Again, if you're here, you're here. If you can let the knees relax more toward the ground, we're going to do another forward fold for 2 minutes in this butterfly pose. And 2 minutes starts now. Release chin toward the chest. Let everything just relax and sink into this forward fold. Close the eyes. Breathe however you feel is best for you. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. I'm up for any of it. Relax the jaw, relax the face. Relax the forehead. No tension, no resistance. A few more breaths in this butterfly, forward fold. Now slowly make your way back up. And I'm going to do a little transition here. The next thing we're going to do is not a yin yoga thing at all, but it's kind of, we just worked into the hips. You're going to recline back and just let your knees fall side to side in a little windshield wiper movement, just to kind of get a little bit of movement in. She can't help herself. She's got to get a little movement in. Okay, we're going to move on. And we're going to go to all fours. So this one, like I mentioned, I like to have a blanket under my knees, especially if I'm on a harder surface. We are going into what is known as melting heart. It kind of looks like a child's pose. And you can do child's pose if the melting heart is a little much for you. I've also seen this called puppy dog pose, because unlike a child's pose where you're sitting back toward the heels, you are keeping your tail in the air and melting your heart toward your mat. Whereas a child's pose, you're sitting back more toward the heels and releasing forehead to the floor for both of them. So whatever you would like to do, I'm going to show you melting heart or puppy dog pose, and we're going to hold that for 2 minutes. Get ready, find your best pose that works for you, and we will get going. Melting heart, child's pose starts now. We have about 30 more seconds in this pose. See if you can get the chest to release, melt more toward the floor. Again, you're finding your edge. Just let yourself go to that edge that feels most natural to you. Start making your way out of this pose onto all fours. And now I am going to add a little more movement again, just to transition to the next yin yoga pose. We're going to do cat cows. And if you're familiar with cat cow, it's that tucking of the chin, opening up the shoulder blades in that scared cat, and then looking up toward the ceiling, flattening the back, getting all that nice movement through the spine, through the neck, through the low back. Take your time though. I'm not wanting this to be a fast movement. We'll just do a couple more. Okay. Now I'm going to have us move on to what I would consider our more advanced, or our probably the most intense pose you're going to do today. And I'm going to start small with this one because it can be so intense for the hips. And we're going to do baby dragon. So baby dragon is a hip opener. And I'm going to have you can again use your blanket under you for your knee that's going to stay on the ground. I think I'll try to do without it. Have a block or a book or something like that nearby, just in case. But baby dragon is going to be where we're taking a knee. So you take one knee. You know what? I might use the blanket. I really hope I'm in the shot. That's okay. I love this blanket under my knee because this knee, my right knee, I had ACL surgery a couple of years ago now, but it is sensitive on even a mat on this hard floor. So, okay, so baby dragon is basically you're going to take a knee to start. Take a knee, and then you're going to maybe walk the foot out just a little bit so you can get into this lunge position, and you're going to do hands on both sides of the front foot. I kind of like to wedge my knee into my armpit here and that's where we're going to stay. And so there's going to be a lot of sensation here if we're going to be hands on the floor. If you need to come up and just take a knee here, do that. But what I do like about a block, and you can have two different blocks, is maybe holding here with a block. So we're going to hold this baby dragon for 2 minutes on each side. So find your lunge, take your knee and get into that position, and we'll start in a few here as you're getting ready. This one is the more intense pose of the session today, so you're going to maybe find yourself wanting to wiggle yourself out of it. We're going to do about 2 minutes. All right, here we go. 2 minutes starts now. Find your edge with this one, really, because it's easy to go past it in this type of pose. So do not go past your edge on this one. You will feel it tomorrow if you did. Focus on the breathing. Release as best you can. Use that breath to help you release. Go ahead and slowly make your way out of this pose. Even come back into child's pose to what we call a rebound, just letting that all sink in before we transition to the other side. Good, and now we're going to switch over to the other side for baby dragon. Yes, really find your edge on this pose and not go past it because it's such a deep hip opener. And so again, if you need to be more upright or using that block for support, do that. So here we go, baby dragon on the other side, 2 minutes. Find the edge, find the stillness in body and mind. Few more breaths. And now let's slowly make our way out back into child's pose for our nice rebound, letting that all sink in. Now we're going to transition over into Sphinx pose, which is going to have us on our belly and legs out straight. And really, we're not going to hold the Sphinx for very long. This is a little bit of another kind of movement transitioning over into some other yin yoga poses. But with Sphinx, I want you to think about pushing your forearms into the floor instead of letting yourself sink down in the shoulders. Push away. And now you're going to get a little bit of a back bend for your low back here. And then we're just going to look right over the shoulder, back toward our feet, side to side, just for a little movement. Let's do one more on each side. Great. And now I'm just going to have you relax down, hands, use the hands as a little pillow, rest the forehead on top of the hands, and just let that all sink in. And now I'm going to have us roll over onto our backs. And we're going to do a couple of yin poses on the floor, on our back. Let's start with feet firmly planted, so knees bent. Good. And just kind of take a minute here just to feel the floor underneath you, under your back, feet firmly planted. We're going to go into a sleeping swan pose. So swan pose in yin yoga is also known as the pigeon pose. And so the pigeon pose, if you've done it plenty of times, you know where that stretch, where that sensation shows up during pigeon. And so this is basically the same stretch, but we're lying down, and that's why they call it the sleeping swan. It's also known as figure four. So I don't mind which leg you start with. I'm just going to cross one leg over the top. So your ankle is just going to be crossed over at the right above your knee in this figure four. And then you're going to draw the knee toward the chest and find your edge. You're going to feel a huge stretch all through into your glutes, your piriformis. This is super tight for people that do a lot of sitting throughout the day. And we're just going to hold here. Now you can thread the hands through to grab the back of the thigh to guide the knee a little bit closer toward the chest. But again, we're finding our edge. We are going to be here for maybe a minute. Sometimes I just go by feel and not use a timer. Couple more breaths, and then we'll switch it over to the other side. Go ahead and release the hands. Bring both feet back to the mat, knees bent. Relax here for a couple of breaths before we switch over. And now we'll do sleeping swan on the other side. Cross that ankle over the top, just above the knee, figure 4, and then draw that knee toward the chest. Use those hands to guide it a little bit closer, but find your edge. Close the eyes, relax into this pose. A few more breaths here in this sleeping swan. Go ahead and release the hands, bring the feet back, both feet back to the mat. But now let's lengthen everything out. Arms stretched out overhead, legs nice and straight. And just as though you just woke up from a nice nap, you're going to stretch the whole body out, lengthen it. And then release the hands, the arms off to the sides. We're going into our final pose known as corpse pose. Savasana usually is also used. And this is where I really like to focus on the breath and scanning the entire body for everything that we just did in this session to let it all sink in. Close the eyes. Let the feet just fall off to the sides. Release all tension in the tops of the legs. Release the glutes. On your next inhale, see if you can fill your belly like a balloon, expanding the rib cage. And then exhale it out through the teeth like a balloon or like a hiss. Try that again. Inhale, fill the belly like a balloon. Expand the rib cage and let it out through the teeth. Go back to your natural breathing. We're going to start waking the body up just a little bit, but nothing where we're rushing off And going back to that yang energy, we're still in this yin energy. But start wiggling the toes. Say hello to the toes. Realize that they're there. Start moving the feet, getting a little movement through the ankles. Scan up through the shins into the knees. Go ahead and bend the knees, planting the feet firmly. You can kind of start wiggling around now into the low back. Let's scan all the way up to the shoulders. Again, bring those arms up overhead, big reach. Now we're getting a little bit more movement in. We're waking things up. You can even look at your hands just right here above your face. Get some movement through the fingers. Stretch it out. Make fists. Stretch out the fingers nice and wide. And I'm going to have you roll over to your side and slowly bring yourself up to seated, how we started. You can release chin toward the chest, just kind of let that all sink in before we rush off to the next thing. Go ahead and bring your head back up to center so I can get a look at you. I hope you enjoyed that. If that was your first yin yoga practice, I hope that was a good introduction for you. I plan to do more of these videos because I so need it myself, and I really want to share it with all of you. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being present in this moment. I feel the connection. I really do. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for this day. Namaste.